Joining me now is Rashad Robinson. He's a spokesperson for Color of Change PAC and president of Color of Change. So Rashad, great to have you on the program. How you doing, brother?
Great, good to be here.
So look, you guys are the largest online racial justice organization in America. You got 1.4 million members, and that's outstanding. But I actually think the more outstanding part is how effective you are. And I always point to you guys as probably the single most effective progressive organization in the country. And so I want to talk to you about how you managed to do that, because I think it's really instructive and I'd love our audience to know. So you've got so many accomplishments, it's hard to list. Let's start with some of them and then work our way through it. But you guys pressured Fox News to dump Glenn Beck, and they did. And you had the hashtag Drop O'Reilly campaign, and they did. I mean, to get Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly, that is amazing. So how did you do that?
Well, a lot of what we did was really trying to channel the energy of everyday people in the smartest, most strategic ways. And so we have this strategy of respond, build, pivot, and scale. Respond to moments that are happening in the world, build a lot of energy of everyday people trying to help educate, and then find those systemic pivots. And so for us, when it came to Fox News and their role at keeping both Glenn Beck and Pat and Bill O'Reilly on the air, what we did was we really moved that energy to advertisers. And in the Glenn Beck case, we ran a 2-year campaign that forced over 200 advertisers to have to divest. It was actually a very long, sustained campaign where we had staff watching every single night as advertisers dropped, and they would, come back a couple of months later, and we would then call them back, and then really move a lot of energy and stay persistent. But with the advertisers, right, keeping the conversation out of a left or right frame and moving it to a frame of right or wrong, really trying to help folks leverage the power of civil rights, the power of gender justice, the understanding that these corporations can't come for our money by day and support Glenn Beck or Bill O'Reilly by night. And really staying really clear that this wasn't a political issue, but a moral issue. And over time, watching advertiser after advertiser drop. The thing I'll say about all of this is that, in particular, for instance, the Glenn Beck show, the ratings didn't go down, but Fox couldn't actually sell advertising for the show. The last episode of the Glenn Beck show, you didn't have the Walmarts or McDonald's or Hondas of the world advertising. You have that company that you put gold in an envelope and you send it in and they send you back cash. That was the commercial playing over and over again. And so what we've really tried to do through our strategies, whether it's holding corporations accountable or holding government accountable, is find the right strategic lever to pull where our members' voices are actually most heard. So we don't do the type of campaigns that say, tell Mitch McConnell to stand up for affirmative action, because there's no real theory of change. All the black people in the country could sign that petition and all of our allies, and it still wouldn't matter. What we do try to do is find the leverage, the points of change where our members' energy, where black folks' political power can be heard and felt and impactful.
Yeah, and so I follow this stuff meticulously, and I think I know most of the progressive groups really well, and so when I say that, look, you guys are a huge part of the O'Reilly campaign, but you pretty much single-handedly got Glenn Beck, and so that's absolutely real, and that's why I think it's powerful, and I want people to learn from you in terms of things you could do to actually make a difference in the world. So let's talk about ALEC. Now that's the American Legislative Exchange Council. That's all the big corporations coming in and writing rules on behalf of corporations, especially at the state level. Well, you guys have also targeted them. So can you tell us about that campaign and how it's going?
Yeah, so we first started with ALEC when those discriminatory voter IDs laws started popping up around the country. The ones that say you can vote with your student ID, but not you can't vote with your student ID, but you can vote with your gun license, like the one in Texas. And so what we ended up doing was we decided that there was no theory of change for us. That once again, calling on state legislators or governors in Tea Party states to, not support those bills. We knew that it was a political strategy of the right to make it harder for Black people, for brown people, for young people, many communities to vote and be heard. And so we started looking into sort of what was behind it, and all the signs started pointing to this shady behind-the-scenes organization, ALEC, who doesn't oftentimes go in the media, who works behind the scenes. They bring corporations and they bring state legislators into these private conferences, and together they write legislation that they're not transparent about, and they move into state houses around the country. ALEC had become so successful over the 40 plus years of existence that state legislators would sometimes go into the state houses, introduce ALEC bills, and not even take the ALEC logo off the top of the page, and the bill would still pass. And so what we recognized was that because ALEC was overwhelmingly sponsored and supported by corporations, 98% of the money into ALEC came from corporations who every single day came to the Black community and say, buy our products or use our services. So we didn't want to protest ALEC. We wanted to go to those corporations who were sponsoring Black History Month programs, advertising on Black radio, trying to have a relationship with the community and hold them accountable. We started by going out to about 15 of the 100 plus corporations that were sponsoring ALEC, and we sent them letters, and then we would get on the phone with them. And once we got on the phone with them, they would say things like, we give a little to the left and we give a little to the right. And we would say, that's great, but there's actually not two sides to Black people voting. And so keep giving to the left and keep giving to the right, but we're having a conversation about right and wrong. And we would move those conversations back and forth while simultaneously starting a public conversation with our members. And some progressive organizations like Credo and others joined us and joined our leadership and really supported the work that we were doing. And we went out to our members and we started educating our members around stopping corporate funded voter suppression. But we didn't expose the corporations right away. We were trying to give the corporations the ability to divest ahead of time. And as we went back and forth with these corporations, the tragedy in Ferguson happened with Trayvon Martin. And our organization rapidly responded. We supported hoodie rallies around the country. We mobilized our members to call on the Obama Justice Department to engage. We did all of the things necessary to try to raise our members' voices and really try to engage in that effort. And while that was happening, we found out that the Stand Your Ground law was an ALEC piece of legislation. Sponsored by the NRA and Walmart, the largest sellers of guns, and moved into state houses around the country. And so at that point, we needed to pivot. And kind of in that, as I said before, that idea of respond, build, and pivot. So you find the systemic pivot so you're not just playing that game whack-a-mole at the carnival where something pops up and then you hit it down and something else pops up, but you're actually trying to move for some sort of systemic change so things get changed over time. And then we picked one of the corporations that we had been in conversation with for, literally months, back and forth through letters and phone calls, and that was Coca-Cola. The reason why we picked Coca-Cola was because Pepsi actually pulled out behind the scenes and told us they were going to divest from ALEC. And we gave Coca-Cola 48 hours, and we gave them a mock-up of the billboards that would go up, the web page that would go live in 48 hours. We told them the script that we'd be giving our members and how we'd be giving our members the ability to contact. And 48 hours passed and Coca-Cola was still in ALEC. And so then what happened was we then told our members 1,000 at a time and gave them phone numbers at Coca-Cola. And about 5 hours in, Coca-Cola said, we've had enough. We're divesting from ALEC. And then over the course of the next several weeks and months, we escalated on a whole set of corporation after corporation after corporation, working very closely with our friends at the Center for Media and Democracy, who did a tremendous amount of work at really exposing ALEC through their ALEC Exposed website and giving us a lot of the research that we needed to move that campaign. And then, as we did that, corporations dropped. ALEC attacked us. They hired Edelman PR to come after ALEC and try to make me and my dimples angry Black man. But over time, we kept escalating. We left ALEC with a $1.5 million budget shortfall. We forced over 100 corporations to divest. We forced them to end the committees that were working on discriminatory voter ID and stand your ground laws. We leveraged that energy to stop some of the things they were doing around ending municipal broadband in places like Georgia and throughout the South. And then we've continued to keep the heat on ALEC around so much of what they've done and so much of the horrible laws they're trying to push on everything from surveillance and privacy to things like private prisons, to so much of the efforts they have done to make it easier for corporations to pollute and drill in our communities. So many of these laws give America what we like to say is the cold. But when we know that when America gets the cold, Black people get the flu. And so what we've often tried to do through all of these campaigns is help the larger progressive movement recognize how racial justice can be a winner. Not just a winner for Black and brown people, but a winner for all the issues. Because forcing all those corporations to divest from ALEC on issues related to racial justice, weakening ALEC's ability to move laws that hurt our communities, and having them do it through a racial justice frame didn't just help Black people, it helped the entire progressive movement. And it's one of our central messages that when Black people win, our victories are victories for the entire movement.
Okay, I want the audience to understand that this group, here it is. An African-American group that got Fox News to bend to its will, that has moved some of the largest corporations in the history of the world. I want you to understand that you can do it too. Look, these are giant killers. And so look, I want Black folks to understand it, but I want all progressives to understand it. You can make a difference. And look, when I get stuck, sometimes I call Rashad for advice because I know he's one of the smartest, most effective guys in the business. And so learn from those lessons, both the specifics that Rashad just explained, but also the overall message, which is that united, we are far, far stronger, and there are ways to make change possible and make it happen, and they have done it time and time again. Rashad, I want you to come back on and talk about your new campaigns as soon as you can, because we're here for you. I know you're here for the whole country, and you've made more of a difference than I think so many other organizations. And I want everybody to know it's colorofchange.org. Please go check it out, participate, and that is a place where your action will lead to results. Thank you, Rashad. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Like what you see? I hope so. Thank you. So click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from Rebel HQ.